Welcome back. Halloween is one of the best times of the year for you and your family, and you want your kids to enjoy it, of course, but you also want them to be safe. So here with some Halloween safety tips is pediatrician Dr. Andrew Reese from the West Boca Medical Center. Dr. Reese, welcome to the show. It's good to have you here. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show.
So you got your hands full, man. Not only are you a doctor, but you've got 3 daughters who all want to go trick-or-treating. Halloween is going to be a tough time for you, huh?
It's a lot of fun time, too, as long as we're safe.
Yeah. So they're all going to go trick-or-treating? They've got their costumes picked out and everything?
They're very excited. They're very excited.
Are they at the age where they're ditching Dad, or is Dad going with them?
Well, with the 2 younger ones, who are 9 and 11, they're going with us. We won't let them go on their own yet. But my 7th grade daughter, who is 12 and a half, has asked us, is it okay for me to go trick-or-treating alone with my friends, and you don't come with us, Mom or Dad? And we thought about it, and we told her that this year that it would be okay, but we were going to put some limits on where she could go. So we decided that, and told her, and she's a responsible girl, so we really can trust her, that she's allowed to go up this block and that block, but she can't go beyond this area. And we've given her some guidelines for what's some safety things she needs to be aware of for her trick-or-treating. About, for instance, we're going to tell her she can't go to any homes where the lights aren't on.
Okay.
That if she gets to the house, even if she knows the people at the house, if they invite her in, she has to say, no, I can't go in. So some simple safety things. She also is going to carry a cell phone, which today makes it so much easier to stay in touch. We can keep track of her also that way a little bit.
You can also hide in the bushes and just sort of like follow her around.
We won't do that. The thought may have crossed my mind. I'm not admitting it.
Right, you can neither confirm nor deny. All right, so you kind of led us right into it. There is a lot to talk about safety-wise. I mean, everything from costumes to candy and sort of and everything in between. So let's start with costumes. As a doctor, what are some costumes or types of costumes that kids need to stay away from?
Well, first of all, the costumes, most of them are made this way, but you really should check the label to make sure that it's flame resistant. Most costumes are made that way, but it's important, pretty simple. Other things to be aware of is a lot of costumes come with a cane, a sword, a lightsaber, and they're fun, but they can cause injury. So you got to make sure, people have to make sure that it's not sharp, that it's not too long. With little kids who have it, if it's too long, they could trip on it. The masks, a lot of these masks that the kids put on, either the eye holes are too small and you can't see out of them very good, or they can't breathe so well, so they have to make sure that it fits well. A lot of stuff the kids put up on their head, hats and things, they can fall down in front of their eyes and just lead to tripping and injuries.
Yeah, well, those are all great points because so many costumes have all of those things that you just talked about. Right. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you're going to see a lot of masks. Let's talk about candy. You and I were talking about this a few minutes ago. That when we were kids, it was always you don't eat the apples because they might have stuff in them, and you got to be really careful. Is that still a concern?
It's a concern, something to be aware of. It's very rare, so we all have to be very safe. So I would say that for any items that are not commercially packaged, that people should throw away. They're not necessary. They're probably safe, but not necessarily, and why take any kind of a risk? Also, if any package seems to be in some way damaged or tampered with, which would be unusual, it should also be thrown away. And so parents should be in the habit of inspecting the candy before letting the kids eat it, which also leads to another piece of advice, which is as you're out on the trick-or-treat trail, it's so tempting for the kids to just dip their hand in the bag and start munching right away, but it's a bad idea. It's not healthy, not safe, and also hasn't yet been inspected. So something to be aware of. Pretty rare.
I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier regarding your daughter about kids going off by themselves with other kids. What are and I already touched on a few of these, but let's go back to it. What are some really important tips for parents and for kids if kids are going to venture out in groups with their friends?
Right. Well, one of the important things is to stay in the group. It's easy to go from this place to that place, and sometimes people can just get lost or left on their own, and there's potential for danger there. Most of our communities are very safe, but we all have to use safety skills. Kids of all ages should be taught about 911 and how to call 911 and what to report. And they need to look out for their friends. Sometimes a friend is making a bad decision, and it's another friend who has to stick up for them and say, hey, don't do that. Come over here, let's go this direction, and just redirect it into something that's more safe and acceptable.
What about times of day? When is a good time for your kids to go out and come back?
I think it was a few years ago that they moved daylight saving times back a week. that it used to switch on the last Sunday of October, which usually fell because October 31st is Halloween, before Halloween, so the days got darker earlier, and everyone was trick-or-treating, and it was essentially nighttime at like 6 o'clock, and now it's in a whole hour later because it's the first Sunday of November.
This one's kind of off topic, but I'm thinking about, you may get this a lot as a pediatrician. I always remember when I was a kid, Halloween, I loved horror movies, right? Your Freddys and your Jasons and all that stuff. But, there's a lot of sort of scary stuff. Do you, as a parent, do you tell your kids about that? Do you ever find any kids asking you about the boogeyman? What do you say?
Well, the little kids worry about monsters in their rooms, and that's something that they complain of to their parents. As far as scary movies, we don't really let our kids watch scary movies. It ends up with them wanting to sleep in our room all night, that night, and maybe many nights afterwards.
And nobody wants that.
No, we don't want them in our room. And sometimes there's not scary movies where something really unexpected but scary happens, and that one scene, they remember that one little image, like, I can't sleep because I can't get that picture out of my head.
Sure.
And they want to be in our room every night, and we have to manage that.
What I loved about this interview is we got a lot of Halloween tips, and we got some parenting tips while we're at it. Like dad of the year with his 3 daughters. So if people want to call you for medical advice or just want to talk to you about being a dad, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, I work at Pediatric Associates in our Boca Raton location, and information about my office and contacting me is available at our website at pediatricassociates.com, and it's a good place to see about my practice and all of our locations.
What are you dressing up as?
I'm going to be Gru from Despicable Me.
Oh, okay.
Every year I have a different costume. Last year I was Superman, which gave me these great abs of steel. They were fake.
They were fake. Yeah, all right. It was good to meet you, and happy Halloween to you and your family.
David. Thanks a lot.
Yep. Thank you, Dr. Reese, and he also suggests that if your kids are trick-or-treating at night, they should put some reflective gear on their costumes. Well, that is all for our show today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any ideas as to what we should cover, all you have to do is tweet us at WSFL, or of course you can follow us on Facebook at Inside South Florida and SFL-CW. We will see you guys same time, same place next weekend, and of course we'll see you every day this week for Eye Opener, 6 to 8 a.m. right here on SFL TV. Take care.